All right, the memorial service of Andrew Mlangeni is still underway. We're just waiting for the feed to come back so that we can take you straight there. It is currently happening at Soweto. Some ANC leaders there at his home in Soweto, but many actually attending through various online platforms this afternoon as they pay respects to the late struggle stalwart. Well, EFF leader Julius Malema says that the party has become an unstoppable force of change in the country 7 years after its establishment. He says that the EFF stands on the shoulders of great African leaders. Addressing a virtual rally to mark the party's 7th anniversary, Malema said that they would continue to fight for 7 non-negotiable pillars on which a new South Africa and the continent as a whole must be forged. All right, pardon me, we'll go back to them.
Of the Black Amateur Golfing Fraternity. It is therefore appropriate that in paying tribute to this revolutionary, something is also said about what was important in his life, what constituted an important part of his life. His passion for golf was surpassed only by his love for people and country. Following my retirement as chief of the South African National Defence Force, those who belonged to underground structures in Swaziland, who had belonged to this, organized an annual golfing event in my name at the Royal Golf Course in Ezulwini Valley, Swaziland, which has been going on now for 15 years. Tatu Mlangeni always graced the event with his presence. He will be sorely missed at our future events. On behalf of the golfing fraternity, and indeed on my behalf, and that of the Military Council, and all military veterans, I wish to extend our heartfelt condolences to the Mlangeni family on their sad loss of this humble giant of the struggle. Your loss is a loss to all of us. West Orlando Golf Club has lost a venerable and valued member. South Africa has lost a great and humble leader of the people. Go well, servant of the people. You will always remain dear to our hearts. Hamba kahle Mkhonto. I thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Chair. I think it's my turn, Tokyo, if I may. Chair, thank you very much for the introduction. Heartfelt condolences to the beloved family and salutations to the leadership. I'm very grateful to have been invited to speak. Chair, I'll just provide a very short anecdote. Comrade Mlangeni, of course, was the last surviving member of the Rivonia accused. He was also the first recruit into MK, courtesy of Comrade Madiba, who turned to him because he had seen Comrade Andrew's wonderful qualities, the honesty and integrity of the comrade during the 50s, which was the bedrock of his courage and dedication. The anecdote I referred to is when I first met him in the company of Joe Modisi. I was based in Durban, early 1960s, and the two came down. We were providing them with some dynamite for very good and healthy purposes of struggle that we had liberated from a construction company. And we were loading some of this into one of their vehicles. I complained to Comrade Modisi, who was actually commander of Comrade Andrew, by the way, at that stage already. And I said, we're having big problems here carrying out the tasks, Commander. We have one car, it's hot, and we can hardly work. Modisi said, Mlangeni, you're going to drive that back to Joburg. We will change it. We will repaint it. We will re-register it. They had the means. We were amateurs and didn't. They promised between them to replace that vehicle. That promise never happened. Comrade Modisi had to skip the country soon after. Comrade Andrew, as we know, was soon imprisoned. So fast forward to the early 1990s at the Shell House headquarters of the ANC, where Comrade Andrew is the officer in charge of transport. And I go along to him with my requisition form for a car. I'm working with the organizational department. And he says to me, "You're a bit late today, Ronnie. You're going to have to wait in line. We don't have many cars." So I decided to put on my poker face. And I said, "Comrade Andrew, I'm not last in line. I'm first in line." He looked at me very severely. And we all know how he could look severely at one. And he says, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, I've been waiting for a car from you since 1963. You never fulfilled that promise." He burst out laughing. He didn't provide any favors. There was no cronyism. It was all principled stuff. I waited for my car for a couple of days and then received it. It's not the most heroic anecdote about Comrade Andrew's life. They're death-defying, death-facing anecdotes which showed his mettle, his commitment, his steel. He never broke under interrogation. They tortured him brutally, and he had lots of secrets under his hat. And that brings me to basically the example of his life. Of course, there are many qualities he had, and comrades have eloquently referred to them. But this quality of honesty, of integrity, which Comrade Sophie and Comrade Snooky have referred to, are fundamental. They provide the strength, the courage emerges out of that honesty, which is service to the people. And then the courage and the discipline, the determination, the dedication arise out of that. That was the golden standard of Comrade Andrew's whole life, not the gold standard of money or the dollar standard of wealth and greed and acquisition, but golden in the sense of purity. He was a pure person, a pure human being, honest as the day is long. And it's that integrity and honesty that always helps. Whether it's the individual, we're all flawed, whether it's a family with their problems, whether it's society, a country, a nation, fighting all challenges. If the bedrock is honesty, which is all about principle and integrity, no matter what the problems, one can surpass them. That, for me, is the actual essence of the life of not just Comrade Andrew Mlangeni, but that pantheon of golden figures of the Sisulus and the Mandelas, the Lutulis, way back to 1912 and further back in history. That commitment, courage arising out of absolute purity of humanity, which our people have known in Ubuntu. And that must be, aside from the rhetoric and the homage we pay today, it must be the lesson that we show, that we follow, that we teach our youth, that we hand down to coming generations. If the legacy of Comrade Andrew Tawe Amatawe and those of the pantheon of the Mandibas and the Sisulus and others is to last and is to help us overcome every challenge and do what the purpose of the ANC and the movement is, to change the country, to serve the poor, to overcome inequality and poverty. And for me, comrades, this is the legacy of the pureness of heart and mind of Comrade Andrew Mlangeni and his generation. Siyabonga kakhulu, comrades. Good. It was good. No, I've put. You go.
All right, we're waiting for Ndata Sexwale to unmute himself there, but some really touching words from Ronnie Kasrils as well, a fellow former MK, of course, serving with the likes of Nelson Mandela and Andrew Mlangeni. He says that Andrew Mlangeni was the first recruit in the MK thanks to Nelson Mandela, and the honesty and integrity of Mlangeni is what you spoke of there. I think two words that are often used to describe Andrew Mlangeni. And of course, sharing some heroic anecdotes of the struggle hero and some, I suppose, funny stories that they would have shared together as comrades. I think we often hear how he never sort of snitched on any of his comrades, regardless of what information or whatever that he had with him. Of course, courage then being the characteristic of his that many keep on talking about as they pay tributes to Andrew Mlangeni. We'll take a short break. Do stay with us. More after this.
Family of Mlangeni, the leadership of the ANC as elected, Comrade Mlangeni would have been proud together with many of our departed if they see the manner in which we are today. We are honoring an age-old slogan of the African National Congress, which used to be broadcast on Radio Freedom: organize wherever you are. Irrespective of and regardless of what's happening with the pandemic, which is affecting our people and many people across the world, the ANC has assembled today through technology to honor this departed comrade. I'm happy to be part of this. We knew him as Mutokwa. That's what he called himself. That's how they referred to him on Robben Island. Because when the leadership arrived there, they gave themselves different names. They came in as Mandela, but they came out as Madiba. Zizi, that was Governor Mbeki. Pamela, that was Comrade Sisulu. Mbona, that's Comrade Mukwai. Comrade Kathy, Comrade Comrade Kathy, because he didn't have a name, they used to call him Comrade India. And then, of course, Mlangeni, Mutlok. He knew it all. He passed his life through the poverty-stricken areas of Bethlehem in the Free State. He knew it all. He was a member of the working class as a bus driver. He joined the Youth League. His party is not dissimilar to many of our people and many of our leaders. He joined the ANC, was a member of the Communist Party, as well as Umkhonto weSizwe, a founding member when he was called upon to do so. Man of courage. Because you remember that those comrades were called upon to form Umkhonto weSizwe. It was not about how well prepared you are to die for your people. This time round, it was how much prepared you are to kill for your people. That's how we should locate the courage and bravery of a comrade such as Mlangeni, who joined the ranks of the Rivonia people. But Comrade Mlangeni was, like other leaders, a consummate organization man. Could not operate outside the organization. He was a consummate leader who believed that without the organization, there is no far that we can go. That is why our organization today needs to be salvaged. Our organization needs to be saved. Our organization needs to be nurtured if we are to survive as the ANC. Comrade Mlangeni was a consummate branchman from Dube. He became a leader of that branch much early in the 50s. Comrade Mlangeni, as a leader of Dube, inspired a number of us. A branch that produced leaders such as Gebuza, who was just spoken by man. a branch which produced Joe Modise, a branch of Musolodi, a branch of Totobe, a branch of Putsani, a branch of Gebuz himself, and a branch of Gebuz's younger brother and my own brother, you all know him, Krapis, who all died in a hail of bullets. One in Swaziland, one in Lesotho. Comrade Mlangeni was very, very happy to see me when I arrived on Robben Island because he had not seen somebody from Dube for a long time. He used to pride himself as coming from Dube, which was named after John Langalibalele Dube, the first president of the ANC. Comrade Mlangeni leaves the legacy of discipline, of courage, of commitment, of consensus, and of a leader who's humble amongst the best of the best. He used to be a very sharp point of criticism, a critic against leaders like Madiba, like Governor Mbeki, like Walter Sisulu. They all were equally very open with one another when it comes to self-criticism. The survival on Robben Island was based on the fact that nothing was taken by them for granted. Everything had to be discussed. Everything was subjected to criticism. Mlangeni, on our release from prison, or shortly before the release, was one of those comrades who questioned Madiba very, very, very closely in respect of the discussions that Madiba had at that time started in prison with the then P.W. Botha, subsequently with de Klerk. He didn't take things for granted. Had to make sure that he's not follow my leader. Madiba Wizang. What are you discussing with the Boer? And it's only when you are satisfied that we are on the right course that he accepted to participate in the whole campaign for us to prepare for negotiations. Because in prison, we never negotiated. Prisoners and oppressors cannot have a consensus on contracts. Only free men can negotiate. Therefore, Comrade Mlangeni was one of those strong leaders in prison who made sure that Comrade Madiba was adhering to the strict lines of discipline when it came to opening the lines around discussions about these discussions with our enemies. He leaves the legacy of forthrightness, speaking out when things are going wrong within the movement, but also a legacy that says when leaders are elected, if they go wrong, we must criticize them, even to the point if they have to leave office. But also, he must be remembered, not just the fact that he criticized Comrade Zuma and then he had to go. He's a consummate supporter of an elected leader when a person is doing a good job. That is why over and over, right until his last days, he has been calling for us to stand 4 foot square behind the current elected president, Cyril Ramaphosa, so that we don't have all the time this type of a yo-yo where leaders are elected, a la Polokwane, then somebody's gone. Then we go to Mangaung, then somebody's gone. And then, of course, we go to Nasrec. Are we preparing to remove a leader again? If a leader is holding the line, if a leader is disciplined, if a leader reflects his people, Mlangeni has urged right until the time of his death that we stand behind such a leader. We are saying to his family, not just because we come from Dube with them, but because we come from the bigger family of the African National Congress. We have lost one amongst the best. The last man is Sitolande standing within the African National Congress. His example, his method needs to be emulated. His courage around our ethics, our values of Batupili, Revolution Kebatu, have got to be upheld by us. We must gauge and judge ourselves on the basis of the standards that has been set by these leaders. Robalaka holds on that. Sama hantle seaparangwe, iswalandwe. Sama hantle mtokwa. o ba dumedise kaofela. Moyanti, amandla, matla.
Dlamini Zuma, Nnebi Lindiwe Sisulu, comrades and compatriots, comrade leadership of the ANC, different veterans, with us today. Allow me, in the presence of our leadership, to send my deepest condolences to the Mlangeni family for their loss. Sillo, Maureen, Sylvia, thank you for sharing your grandfather with the nation. Your loss is our loss. Your father and grandfather touched many lives, both in politics and through the work of the Mlangeni Legacy Project. Allow me selfishly to single out Mr. Sillo Rasitaba, who pioneered and supported many of Ntate Mlangeni's legacy projects. We launched Mlangeni Foundation, which gathered a host of different people, chaired by me, Professor, and under that, we launched the book, The Green Jacket, Blankets, which project must continue to honor his memory. During the years when we served in the leadership structures of the Youth League, Comrade Khalima Mutlante, our Secretary General and an elder, encouraged us to tighten the bonds with the elders of the ANC, to learn from them. We developed very close bonds with Ntate Mlangeni, Mama Adelaide Tambo, and Mama Winnie Mandela. Little did we know that our relationship with Ntate Mlangeni will blossom beyond the politics into friendship despite the vast age difference. He ignited our interest in golf through his love affair with the sport, and we traveled the world together, participating in different tournaments. And among others, this include the Limpopo Eagles and honoring the memory of Comrade Peter Mokaba and the Joe Matebula. They also had an annual tournament in memory of Comrade Peter. I will forever be indebted to him for my personal development, striking a personal note as a cadre and in life generally. To me, he was a father, a mentor, a comrade, and somebody who we could listen to and draw inspiration from. Hide nothing from the masses of our people, tell no lies, expose lies whenever they are told, mask no difficulties, mistakes, and failures, claim no easy victories. The words of Amilcar Cabral are a fitting reminder of what Ntate Mlangeni stood for. Ntate Mlangeni was a giant whose shoulders we stood to get a better vantage point so we can have an unhindered view of the path we've yet to traverse towards the total emancipation of our people. He lived among men and women, yet he walked with giants and legends, whose contribution to our liberation was no mere accident of history, but selfless struggles and personal sacrifices. As we celebrate his life and draw inspiration from his trials and tribulations, we dip our banners in solemn acknowledgement that is no longer one of our own. He now belongs to the ages. His name shall be forever etched in the chronicles of history, alongside the founding fathers and mothers of our glorious movement, who bequeath on us its values, which must always guide us as we ascend to leadership roles and leaders of society. He was and will always be an embodiment of integrity, a steady hand and a lodestar that always shine bright when the nation is enveloped in raging storms in the darkest night. It is for that very reason that he became the first chairperson of the ANC's Integrity Commission. Criticisms or not, there comes a time when bold steps have to be taken to ensure that transformation is realized. Society cannot be paralyzed by perennial caution because people's aspirations cannot be put on hold forever. Close quote. These are his words, delivered when accepting an honorary doctorate at the University of Rhodes. These are profound words of wisdom, which those of us in leadership positions must internalize in advancing the mandate of transformation to push back the frontiers of poverty and underdevelopment. It is time we took bold steps towards realization of a dream of an emancipated society. We must remind ourselves of our core message when we sought a mandate for the sixth administration during the 2019 elections. We acknowledge that as a nation, we have learned the harsh impact on society and economy arising from loss of integrity in institutions of state and business and in political and other formations. We have learned hard lessons about the vigilance needed to stop creeping lawlessness, greed and selfishness taking root. As the party of government, the ANC should have acted faster and more decisively. We were remiss in not preventing a drift from the compass of integrity that inspired inclusive society. We have heard the cries of millions about things that went wrong. We accepted the criticisms. Having learned from both the good and the bad of the past 25 years, informed by our history of commitment to the people's cause, we are resolved to make this an era of renewal and hope. Ndate Mlangeni was of a generation that went beyond the call of duty to defend the unity and integrity of the ANC. He worked hard to eliminate alien tendencies and practices. He believed in the principle of criticism and self-criticism. He was scathing in his criticism of our failure to realize the dream of a truly emancipated society. The only fitting honor to Ndate Mlangeni's memory is to walk in a brisker pace towards transforming the nation's dreams. While we appreciate the legacy that Ndate Mlangeni has left us, numerous questions beg to be asked and require honest answers. What task lies before us in order to preserve his legacy? Is the national democratic revolution on track? A nation on the cusp of hope and renewal requires extraordinary responsiveness from those trusted to lead. Are we on track? How do we translate that hope into lived reality, not betrayed by greed and corruption? How do we restore the trust of our people and roll back and broken promises? Whether these are perceptions or lived reality, our task as leadership is to ensure that we push back the perceptions and live the reality that Ndate Mlangeni stood for. Ndate Mlangeni's exemplary leadership was acknowledged and honored both at home and abroad, and the ANC bestowed on him the highest honor. He received military in China and had the occasion to meet Mao Zedong, who led China at the time. In conclusion, when we quote and drink from the well of the Chinese Revolution, quoting the words of Mao Zedong, make criticism in good time. Don't get into the habit of criticizing only after the event. Close quote. These profound words from Chairman Mao resonate with the values that Ndate Mlangeni espoused throughout his life. We may be poorer without you, but you have left us a legacy of integrity, selflessness, dedication to the people, a legacy ours and future generation must emulate and preserve. I thank you, and thank you very much for sharing the stage with the giants of our revolution. It has been indeed a great honor and privilege. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all those comrades who have given us the most insightful, very touching personal encounters with Comrade Mlangeni. Comrade Fikile Mbalula indicated that he and a number of other people were instrumental in the foundation of Andrew and June Mlangeni in 2009. This was a foundation that was conceptualized and carried through by Comrade Mlangeni and the people around him. The chairperson of that particular foundation is here with us today, Honorable Professor Siphiwe Mkize,